So, hi, and what we're going to talk today and have a little bit of practice with is basically coming from a text which is very ancient, not that ancient, but very ancient, Tibetan text, which basically explains how to meditate. And when I say how to meditate, um, it's specifically for how to build what is called concentration or samatha. Sometimes maybe I will explain a little bit what it means. Samatha basically means um, this experience in the mind is very, very calm. And usually I say from the beginning, samatha is not necessarily the goal of meditation. Like people who have very calm mind, who can get very calm and least experience in meditation, it's not necessarily the goal from at least from Buddhist standpoint, definitely from Tibetan Buddhist standpoint, because the idea is that once the Buddha already experienced all what's called jhanas, there were like 9 levels actually, 5 levels of jhana, which called rupa jhana, jhanas that lead you to a rebirth in a very subtle reality, which is still where you have a body, and 4 levels which are called arupa jhana, which are jhanas that you can achieve, and they are totally abstract, and they make you be born like something like a god. But he claims that these are not bringing to real freedom. And he claims that even on the psychological level, they don't really free your mind once you stop the concentration. It's like the idea is that you take a rock and put it on something like some, I don't know, savage plant that grow. And then when you take it out, the plant will grow because you didn't cut it from the root. So the idea is that this is not the ultimate way to meditate, and the ultimate way to meditate is combination of what he called samatha, which, as I say, calmness of mind, calm abiding, with something that's called vipassana, which is direct insight of something. Direct insight, when you say direct insight, usually the metaphor is like candle. A person can be told by his mother that touching a candle will bring really shitty experience to his body when he touch it. And he can believe her very much and can have total faith in his mother, but there will be a place of doubt. It will not be a real direct understanding. It would be just a faith. It will not be an attainment. And then he can learn and become a professor for chemistry and understand exactly how the chemical thing work with the candle and why it will burn the hand. And he will have all the logic why it is true. But still, he will have some doubt. But in one moment, when he touched the candle, for even one friction of a moment, he understood for his whole life. He will not have any doubt anymore. So that's the idea of direct understanding, direct insight into something. It's something which is like a revelation. It's like about like another metaphor for this. It's like you take a blind person and you tell him what is the color red, and he can become a professor for color red. But if one day a doctor will open, I don't know, his cataract or something, you see red, it will change everything. In that moment, you know what is red. Doesn't matter how much you know about red before, it will not be red. So the idea in meditation that what really free you is only direct insight into the nature of reality, which have sometimes different understanding what it is, or it aimed to different places in different schools of meditation and philosophy and religions. For example, the famous Advaita, what is really called like where you have like a Tiruvannamalai, not far from here, for example. The idea in Advaita is that you won't have direct insight into the fact that the observer, the object of the observation, and the perception are non-dual. That we are all just this field of consciousness, and what we call the observer, it's also part of this field of observation. There is this I, which is like ego, subjective, and it's an illusion. And actually, also this I is just belong to this greatest I, which is the I of God, basically, the I am of God, basically. And when you have this direct experience, then you are free. Then something very deep in your perception of reality change. That's kind of where you want to go with direct experience when you do Advaita. For example, when you're going to do Vipassana, like Buddhist Vipassana in the Theravada tradition, then you have direct experience of what it's called impermanence, that everything change all the time, all the inner phenomena change all the time, that everything is suffering, nothing is really uh, give you long-lasting satisfaction, nothing, not the best coffee, not the best, I don't know, whatever, not even, I don't know, the best sex, whatever, never, nothing really give you ultimate satisfaction within conditional reality. So that's called suffering or dukkha. And then you have the third idea that there is no self. Actually, there is nobody there, no little person who control and push the strings. And actually, that there is actually just processes running in time. And all what we call I is kind of an illusion. And it sounds very grim, but actually when you really understand it in its direct experience, that nobody control and there is basically nobody own a phenomena of body and mind, there's nobody who own the phenomena, that bring the release of grasping in whatever we call reality, and then there is no more suffering. So that's the idea in Vipassana, for example. But in Tibetan Buddhism, where this tradition comes from, you want to combine what is called Vipassana and Samatha, concentration and direct insight, into what is called emptiness. And what is called emptiness is very, very complicated to explain in 2 minutes. I will just give you a metaphor. If there were a lot of people in a room who came with their dogs to a lecture, and a person will lift his hand. Here I don't have a pen, but I can use this flute as an example. But imagine it was a pen, or it can be a flute. It's good for this thing. And I ask all the people, what do you see here? They say, I see a flute, right? Everybody will say, that's a flute. But if you could ask the dogs, what will the dog say? It's like a chewing toy or something like that. And the question, who is right? So who do you think is right? No one. And what will happen if all the dogs and all the human will go out of the room? What will it be then? That's the question. If all the men and all the human will go out of the room, what then would it be?
Nothing.
It will be empty. You would understand the empty nature of it, which means whatever you see in it comes from a projection of your own consciousness, and actually the whole world is coming from you and not to you. And that's a very, very deep concept, or a very deep idea, that when it applied very deeply in meditation, it can turn in our world into what is called perfect Buddha paradise, which means you really understand that everything comes to you, actually usually through karma. I can't go very deeply now into karma, but when we really think that the world comes from us and not to us, and we understand how then we can change the way we project the world, we can actually create something which is totally happy when we really understand and can consciously create our reality. And it's not like this new age idea, I will create a reality by, I don't know, do the secret, visualizing something. That's not the idea. That's actually very shallow understanding of this. When you have a very deep understanding how we create our reality, how we plant the seeds, the karmic seeds that force us to project specific reality, not another one, we can actually create what the Buddhists say, perfect Buddha paradise, in which we can basically not just be totally happy, and not just totally happy by in a non-existing kind of idea like in nirvana, but also totally happy in an existing manifesting kind of idea. And it's a bit like if you imagine somebody who is dreaming. No, if you just dream, that's samsara. But some people learn how to wake for the dream, and that's nirvana. You break the dream, but there is no use anymore because you are a part of this dream. So it's like, what happened when a Buddha awakes? They say, what happened to a flame when it's extinguished? You cannot talk about the Buddha anymore because he was never there the way we thought he is from the first place. But the ultimate way of it, it's like having a lucid dream. You are both awake and you are in the dream. And then there is a lot of dream creatures you can actually help. And you can create a form of happiness which is both inside the dream and outside of the dream. But that's kind of a very deep philosophical idea, and it's not the subject today. The subject today is actually, so how do we meditate well? How we create this thing that we get to the level of samatha, of this concentration, which is actually, how to say, very deep, that when you do, I don't know, 15 minutes meditation, 20 minutes meditation, 1 hour meditation, the end of the meditation is not like, why need it be over? I'm looking at the clock every 5 minutes. And I don't want it to be over. I want it to stay forever. Oh shit, I have to do, I don't know, cleaning the dishes or something and I have to go. How to get to the level quite fast in which we are able to basically go deep into meditation and enjoy it fully. And that's kind of a basis for a lot of things. So they describe, when you saw this picture of the elephant to go through these turns, and the elephant is not alone, there is a monk walking with him, and there is a monkey actually, if you see there. And the idea that the elephant is the mind, but when it's black, it means that the mind is very, very contaminated with the first poison, and it's the first turn, as you see, because each turn of meditation, it's not just that it's going like this for the picture. It means that there are stages of meditation, there are 9 stages of meditation, and each meditation we have to take a turn. We have to do opposite thing to what happened in the part before to kind of keep a balance. It's like a bit like driving a car, balancing things. And in yoga, we call it balancing the two nadis, if you want, the Ida and Pingala, the solar and lunar nadis. So you go into Shumna, the central nadi. In Kundalini yoga, you do it really in an energetic way. And in Tantra, in esoteric kind of yoga or meditation, you learn all kind of really secret or special technique to do it faster, but you don't really need them to go into really good meditation. So, but the idea is that you want to keep the balance. It's like a driver, which is just the beginning. Try to drive a car, and the beginning like too much here, too much there. It's like like this. But with time, you really know how to just keep the balance, and the car is kind of flowing to its direction. So, balancing between what? That's the question. So, there are 5 problems, or obstacles, or enemies, or poisons that are sometimes called. And the first one called, and I really simplify it a lot and make it in less than an hour, something which would be very accessible. So I might say things in oversimplification. If you really read deeply, you will say, oh, but it was not really correct. That's okay. I know I'm not really correct. I'm trying to simplify it. It'd be easy and accessible. So the first thing it's called, if you want, heavy or deep laziness, heaviness, uh, lack of motivation, down quality of the mind. That's what happens when I want to sit and meditate and I don't have an energy to meditate. And if I have an energy to meditate, I immediately fall asleep or immediately kind of think of other things. The mind cannot hold an object at all, for example. And in this situation, my mind is very heavy, lazy, have a lot of slot and torpor, sometimes it's called in some texts. What do I do then? That's the first obstacle. Heavy laziness or heavy energy. Then the other problem, I go now run through them, and then I go one by one with the solutions. So the second problem is actually when the mind become lighter, but then I have restlessness. I have too much energy. If here I have no energy, or I have very tamasic, heavy, going down energy, I just want to sleep or not to meditate or be really lazy and watch Netflix, I don't know. So the second level is when the mind is too restless. It's jumping all the time, running through a lot of objects. And then it's also a problem because basically I can't really fix my mind on an object. So that's actually restlessness, or if you want, crude, gross restlessness. So the first one is like gross laziness, and the other one is gross restlessness. I simply cannot jump. I have too much energy. I'm too rajasic. If you use the Ayurveda term, I'm very rajasic. I can't really calm down. And then my mind is jumping all the time, and I can't really set it on any object really for a long time. And that's the second obstacle. The third obstacle is that all appear as I progress in the meditation and improve to these 9 steps. Is what it called subtle restlessness, laziness. And that means actually when I'm already kind of balanced, I can stay on the object, but now even though I can hold the object and I'm not jumping all the time between different objects and stuff, it is very dull object. And usually this is a very dangerous trap in meditation because it's very actually pleasant. It's like having this drowsiness. I'm just feeling kind of calm. The mind don't go anywhere, and I have this really kind of sort of fun rest type of meditation. But from standpoint of Buddhism, for example, and not other, it would consider to be a mistake in meditation, and actually a dangerous mistake, because we actually really like it sometimes. And it has benefits, actually. We can rest in it sometimes. It's actually sort of fun. Some meditation are very prone to this. Some people who do mantras, sometimes it's very easy to fall into this, especially if you don't have the right understanding fully of the effect of what is the aim of meditation. Then it's actually very joyful, it's restful, but the object is very dull, and you don't have an intelligence there, which means it doesn't make you more clear, more sharp. It doesn't give you penetrating look into the nature of the mind. And beyond that, it also actually They say in some texts that it makes you dumber, that it makes you forgetful, more forgetful, that it's like you learn to live in this kind of liminal zone between awakeness and sleepiness, in which you're always kind of daydreaming if you do it a lot. And actually, that's a mistake, meditation mistake, to kind of stay in this kind of dull zone. And actually, where people do long retreats, like 10 hours meditation a day, I used to do it like many years, especially in the past, but also this time. But when I was young and I was going into this retreat, I was with a teacher who did 3 hours without moving every day, actually twice. And then I found myself after an hour really falling into this because it was so long, and my body started to be very achy, very very. It was unpleasant for my body and my mind also. I was not used to sit so long, and then I found this kind of escape hole. It was like disconnection. I was disconnected, and I was just kind of daydreaming, and in this pleasant thing. And but that's actually a mistake. That's actually a danger thing. If the mind really gets used to it, and this is what is the meditation. Obviously, sometimes this is just a condition in the mind. If you do vipassana and you bring awareness into this condition, no problem. You learn from this. It's just something you grow through and you bring awareness to it. But when that becomes a meditation, that's where you seek in meditation, that become a big danger. And then the more advanced even, it's called subtle restlessness. It's when your mind is kind of fixed on an object, and it's also clear, the object is very clear already, but it still jumps, but in a subtle way. It doesn't jump all the time, but it's kind of restless. Like once you leave the attention from the object a little bit, it's still going somewhere. And that also have a little bit of a risk, because actually we already got used to that the mind is kind of already still and sharp. But when you believe in it, oh, he's already tamed, he's already with us, he's already our friend, then he kind of trick us and start veering, and usually it's one association and another association. Where was I in the last 15 minutes? It can be through really nice, even positive ideas, for really fun memories about stuff. It can be a lot of ways that the mind can sway us off meditation. And the thing is that it's a little bit like in capoeira, for example, there's this idea of majinga, it's called. How do you fight an opponent which is much stronger? It was developed for slaves. You doesn't look like you're going to fight the opponent. You're going to like, I'm his friend, and you are just dancing and create this communication with the other person. But then the defense of the other person fall lower down, lower down. It's just playing, it's just dancing, it's just do something friendly. And then the moment when the defense are lower down, the other guy will turn you off or whatever. So that's a bit like how the mind play in this level. He looks like to be very, very calm and pleasant and our friend, but once we lower down on the defenses, because he was not yet really tamed, he will trick us, basically. So that's another level of obstacle, which is called subtle, actually, restlessness. But then there is actually the fifth one. It's actually when we really already tame the mind. The mind already is a friend, and it's very beautiful when you have this. It's like the brain become kind of a radio station. You want to put it on something, you will stay on it. And you can go as deep as you want into anything you want. Like your intellect become very, very sharp, for example. Your You have opening of expansion of consciousness. You kind of past, present, future are one. A lot of things you can talk about this level when the mind becomes very, very single pointed, concentrated. It's amazing experience. But then you have a problem. One of the problems is that you're still very used to like control it, like see what, because we are like doctors all the time checking the patient, see what is in balance. And sometimes we try to over control, because that's the level actually in which you kind of have to let go and just not disturb anything. Sometimes when you are in a good thing and you try to overcompensate something when everything is good, then you actually ruin that thing. We're having fun with friends, we're sitting and we have such a chemistry, and then one of them say, oh, we're having so much fun. And then he tried to do some techniques for chemistry. I don't know, let's talk about, I don't know, what we have together in common. But now it's already ruining the thing, because we already had it in a very natural way. So trying to do something in artificial way will actually ruin the natural thing that was already achieved. And then we kind of ruin the natural thing it was. So we have to know also when to let go. And also with this, there is obstacles, because a lot of people try to think that you can start by just don't do anything. That's again the Advaita kind of environment, Neo-Advaita, not necessarily Advaita, Neo-Advaita, you don't have to do anything. Just drop the searcher, just drop the effort, just don't meditate, unmeditate if you want, something like that. So actually it's a good advice when you are on a level of concentration which is already very high. But if you do it before you are on that level, you actually will never get into the level in which will be effective tool for meditation. And you can see animals, they are, they meditate all the time in a way by being, the mind is pretty calm and they don't have fear and stuff. It doesn't mean they get any insight and they evolve even though they don't do any effort. My grandmother also never do any effort. She never search spiritually. She never do any effort to meditate. It doesn't mean she is enlightened, okay? So the idea is that it's a very specific stage in which you have to drop the effort. And before that, it will not bring you anywhere, in a way. So that's also kind of a mistake. And we want to be mature enough. And actually, it's paradoxical, because when can we drop the effort? When we become very, very good riders of the mind, when we become very, very good drivers, then we can kind of drop the driving in a way, and the car already will know how to drive by itself, kind of thing. I will not suggest to do it with real cars, but I'm talking about the mind in this thing, which has its own intelligence. And usually when you get to the level of the mind tamed enough that you can just drop the effort at all, it means you don't want to drop the effort, because you don't have any more laziness. You are a very good driver, you like to drive, you know all the ways, you are very skilled in knowing how to turn the mind around, how to activate the mind in the right way. And then actually you got this subtle ego of, oh, I feel like I'm in control, and that's actually becoming an obstacle, and you want to drop this control. So now I'm going to talk about what do you do but till now it's kind of understood? Yes, great. So actually these 9 stages of meditation, they describe more and more subtle levels of mind and what should we do in each of the stages. I'm not going to go into the 9 stages, just say that in the first stage means the gross toxins, the gross obstacles of sloth and torpor and whatever. For example, in Theravada Buddhism, really label all of these things, as different kind of enemies of the mind. And then there are 5 powers that are supposed to fight them. That's actually a little bit of a different system. But the idea is actually that as you go in this path toward concentration, whatever enemy come are more and more subtle, but sometimes you can drop. It's a bit like this ladder game. For example, I'm very deeply already, and my mind is very subtle, but then I don't know, trauma surface, something very strong come to my mind, and then I can drop very low because I have a strong reaction to this, and then I have like a strong restlessness because of this over energy, because it's over reaction, and things like this can happen. So things like this can happen, then I can drop. And also sometimes I have a jump. Sometimes I might simply jump somehow higher into a really deep state. And then I want to adapt very quickly. So now I have to do something else. And this, to know how to handle the mind, means to know your mind, have enough experience, enough driving or flying your brain, your mind experience, and then you become much more efficient in this. So what do we do now? What do we do when you have the first obstacle, which is gross laziness? So there are all kinds of instructions. I'm not going to really name it as a list, like 8 things. I'm going to talk general, so it'll be easy for you to assimilate and understand the principle. So basically, when I'm in this situation, one of the basic things is to have something that excites the mind and give us motivation. So what can excite the mind? For example, in the Buddhist scriptures, they think about the benefit of meditation. I can reach enlightenment. You don't know what meditation will be the meditation in which you reach much deeper level of awareness, which you get freedom, or you get still something really good and deep from it, and you progress. So thinking about the potential of meditation, of any meditation, can be an amazing way to kind of excite you. Another thing which can be very helpful is actually thinking about the rare opportunity that we have as human beings to really do some spiritual work. In Buddhism, they will say, for example, that the chance only of being born as a human being is so rare. It's like a turtle that comes out of the water once in 100 years, and there is one hook floating on the water, like a hula hoop floating in the water, that this turtle will come with his head in the middle of the hula hoop. That's the chance. And you can think how many different conscious life forms are on Earth. Bugs, flies, I don't know what. You can think about how billions there are comparing to human rebirth. And these life forms, from standpoint of Buddhism, they are just as good. They are just worthy of happiness. They just want to be happy just like us. And the idea of the real practitioner is to bring them all into enlightenment. That's the Bodhisattva ideal. We want to bring all beings into enlightenment. I have to care for them all. But I can't care for them all unless I'm enlightened myself. When we both drowning in a, I don't know, really thick mud, whatever, I can't help them. Only when I'm out of this I know, swamp, I can help anybody. So I do it also for them, and I want to use my really rare opportunity that I'm human and I have a mind that can have this metacognition and to use it in order to reach enlightenment. So thinking how rare this opportunity to become human, and in Buddhism they believe in many, many other beings that are not human and animals, for example. So it's so rare and it's so wonderful, so I want to make the best use of it. That's also excite the mind and make me feel how important is this opportunity. So, but they say also some things that are more physical. I can stand, I can wash myself in water if nothing else help. I can just open my eyes. That's like ideas today, you know, there are a lot of these things. I can touch the tip of my fingers that awaken me. Things like this, like the mudras, some of them really come to awaken, especially mudras that are tilted to this direction. Rather than this direction that kind of come down, this kind of awaken more. So even mudras, they help. Uh, um, so there are all kind of things. Some texts say to do slide to the anabandha, which means just to open, bring the stomach in subtly, just like a little bit, and hold the air out, like taking the air out. Let the stomach, the vacuum, make my belly go in. That's kind of an exercise called Uddiyana Bandha, but I do it really, really, really subtly, not like a real Uddiyana Bandha, which is very aggressive, actually, yoga technique. And that can be very helpful as well. And basically, there are some teachings that all the ring muscles, there is a method called Paula method, and anybody who know what it is, all the ring mental muscles that I have, like the eyes and the mouth and the anus and so on, they have to do with energy. If I contract them or move them, it brings some energy. So that's also an idea. But really, the most important thing is motivation. And I have the right motivation and understand what are the benefits of meditating deeply. I want to meditate. And that can help me with growth thing. Also, sleeping enough, doing yoga, all these things help you with gross laziness, basically. Then what I do when I have gross restlessness, I'm over energized. My mind jump all the time. So here are also a few things. For example, contemplation about death. It sounds kind of weird, but that kind of take me down. I'm not so happy, not so excited anymore thinking about death. And death actually can be a great motivation. Like one of the really good ideas about death, that we don't know when it's going to come. So this might be our last chance to meditate. And we better do something good with this. It might be our last chance to reach enlightenment in this life. So thinking about death can be very interesting in this respect. Understanding we're all going to die, that's already kind of a little bit depressing and take the mind a bit down. Understanding that death can come today, and it can come today. Nobody promised you. And millions of people wake up today, sure they're going to live today, and they are not, and they die. So that's also take the mind down and also bring a sense of urgency. Anybody who know marketing, one of the things to sell something to somebody to create some urgency, because otherwise we postpone. Oh, I really need these new shoes, but I can buy them tomorrow, and then I never buy the shoes. So urgency today is, I don't know, 50% off. Now get it, and you have like, I don't know, on the clock like 5, 4 minutes to buy it. You know, then you buy it. So it's a bit like this. We want to use this psychological marketing trick in a way, which is, it's not also a trick in a deep way. So we understand we can die today. And if you're gonna die, and if you're gonna die today, what is the most important thing to do? Because the only things that last actually is those insights that come from meditation and spiritual realization that come from meditation, and obviously good karmas that we plan. That all that lasts. Our body doesn't last, our money doesn't last, our friend doesn't last. Only the good seeds that you plant and the deep spiritual insight, our spiritual level, come with us, go with us to the next life. And that's things that we attain by meditation. So this is why we want to meditate today. So it's both kind of calm, lower the energy of our mind down and create a sense of urgency. So contemplating about death can be very useful when we have this restlessness. But there are a lot of other things, and first of all, we want to practice this thing called mindfulness, which is all the time remember, where are we? Oh, I thought about, I don't know, my grandmother again. Where are we? Oh, I thought about strawberries and never. I thought about, and bring ourselves back to the object again and again. And again, there are many tricks. For example, if my mind jump randomly between tons of objects all the time, it has chaos. I try to keep it only on, let's say, 4 objects. I'm just gonna let him run now between, I don't know, the meditation object, the face of my teacher, which is also considered very good object to remind me about good thing. I don't know, the feeling of the body, and I don't know, my breathing. So now my mind run, but at least you run in this tight circle. It's like something like this, and it kind of shrink where you can run. And that can be also very helpful when you have this restlessness. It kind of slowly take the mind down. As then you come down, I can kind of bring it into one object. So that's another trick that I can use to make a restless mind go a bit less restless. What can be also very helpful is the breathing. There are all kind of breathing techniques. Just watching the breath can be very calming and grounding. But there's specific pranayama, for example, do it like samatha pranayama. Those who know, it's like the square pranayama. I don't know, you breathe in and count to 4. You breathe out, you hold the air, count to 4. You breathe the air out, count to 4. You stay without air and count to 4. 4, 4, 4, 4, then 8, 8, 8 seconds. I don't know, 12, 12, 12 seconds. That kind of a square pranayama is very known, for example, to calm the mind. But there are all kinds of techniques to do it. In NLP, for example, you have a lot of techniques as well, but I can't really go into them now. But the most important thing is to see that now my mind is restless, is grossly restless, it's jumping all the time, can't hold the object that moves a little bit, and I'm basically bringing the mind back, and we have to do it without anger, without judging the mind. It's like a baby, and he's like, oh, this on, and we are like a really, really patient mothers who actually all the time kind of take care of him and bring him home. Kind of, they run away from us and do something like playa kind of thing. Oh, we find him and bring him home again and again and again. We are patient, and if you're patient enough, this energy will be smoothened with time, and the mind will lose its kind of steam, and then it become better when you do it. Because if you get angry about the mind and judging the mind, actually create more of this resistance. So we don't want to do it. But then there is the level in which the mind really gets better and it holds the object. And then when the mind holds the object, what do you want to do then? Then obviously there is this, we have to be aware of this subtle laziness. Now I want to stay with this really calm feeling. And that when this calm feeling comes, but it's dull, it's not with energy, then I want to bring more energy to the meditation. How do I bring more energy to the meditation? I want to be interested in the meditation object. I want to be inspired. I want to make the meditation object very light. If I visualize something, and I don't know, I visualize the eyes of my teacher. Let's take it as an idea. I want to make it more brilliant, more color, more detailed. I want to feel the energy of the love of my meditation teacher, if this is my object of meditation. I want to sometimes make it bigger. I want to be interested in it. I want to really learn. It doesn't have to be that. Sometimes my meditation is abstract or something which is more abstract or just following my breathing. So I want, if I'm following the breath, for example, so I want to be very interested in the little aspect of how hot, how cold is my breathing, how is the feeling exactly when the breathing come out and exactly when the breathing come in, to notice more and more details about the object and to kind of zoom in into the object deeper and deeper and deeper. And that also helps the meditation become more, the object become more clear, more bright, more standing out, have more energy. Because sometimes we are just bored because it's a repetitive object, but nothing is ever boring. There is this nice story about Baba, actually about Ramdas. Those who know Ramdas, he was a great person and great spiritual practitioner, but he was still a kind of a hippie professor who came to India, and he was just exploring everything. And then he came to these people who do like 20 years retreats in the forest somewhere, And he came to talk with them because the guy was just out of, I don't know, 10 years retreat, and he come to him and say, what is your meditation object? What do you focus about? And he say, are you focused on your breathing? So he said, no, there's no breathing, there's breath. Saying it like this. Like for him, this thing of was so interesting, the breath. It's like, it's like divine, something, it's not me, it's not I doing, it's like a whole object which is mysterious for him. And all he did was watching his breath maybe for 10 years. So it's very interesting to see. And when you go very, very deep into, doesn't matter what, you get a deep penetrating insight. So it's about really having very, very clear interest and see the object very clearly. So that's about subtle restlessness, subtle dullness. When it comes to subtle restlessness, then it's actually that the mind is already pretty clear on the object, and the object is beautiful, but as I told you, we can kind of lose it. So in this, and also it makes us suffer because we suppress something. Our body is kind of suppressing itself. There is stillness, but it comes out of suppression. So we can feel sometimes that even though we are kind of feeling strong in meditation, we want to run away. And when is it over? Because actually there is something deeper layer that want it to finish because there is a level of suppression there. So then it's actually how to relax and chill. That's the time to kind of be to chill, to be like a bit like a reggae dudes kind of thing. I can just chill into this meditation. I can take off the steam. I don't have to be, that's kind of a thing because it's very strong. Our own effort give power to this restlessness of the mind, even though the energy is there, and you want kind of to go into the middle way. So it's about kind of relaxing to the object and relax our body. We see what tension is still there, what fight, because it's like we are guarding very strong, we're guarding the object very strong, but that over strength of guarding, this over alertness of guarding, become the obstacle itself. It's imbalance. So we kind of take off a little bit of the attendedness of this mindfulness or this real effort to kind of I'm always holding the object and I don't trust it. He will run away. No, I'm just resting with the object and put down a little bit my defenses and my effort. And then there is a time in which it's kind of balanced between the energy and the easiness. And then a magic happen. It's like the energy goes in the center from Kundalini standpoint, from more like Nadi standpoint, from esoteric yoga or esoteric meditation standpoint. It brings my subtle energy into the center, my wind, it's called the wind. The wind's coming to my central channel, and then I go to this perfect balance. And when I'm going to this perfect balance, how can you tell that? Very easy. You don't want to leave the meditation room now. You don't want to stop. Till now, when is the meditation over? It's such a struggle. When you got there, I want to be here forever. And that's actually what we are seeking in all our activities, basically. When a person surfs, he struggles a lot just to get to this level of perfect balance, and he's just on the wave, and both is the perfect balance between effort and resting and calmness. When we cook, whenever we do it, this is being in our zone, basically. That's the experience of actually having this like harmony, and sometimes work very hard to get there. And whatever art, whatever thing you do, actually strive to get there. That's actually a latent striving to get into this concentration level. That actually what our first level of concentration we strive for, and we have it in life. For example, very few people reach in life the 9 level of samatha of concentration. Very few people, and it will happen in a very weird way. I don't know. I met a person who actually had a samadhi. She had a real realization. She was driving in a scooter, or somebody was driving her on a scooter, and then there was a truck before, and then stop before, and they were coming to crash. And she said that it's 2 seconds between the seconds that the truck do this emergency stop to that they were crash into it, and she was like 6 months in the hospital afterward. All the time was stopping. She was in a perfect bliss. She saw God, whatever. She was, and then obviously it stopped, and then she crashed and had a lot of pain. But that 2 seconds, and the brain totally stopped. It was such a shock, and the brain totally stopped. And she was looking for this for the rest of her life. She became a yogi because of this, because she wanted it back. She wanted to experience these 2 seconds back. Because we actually, once we experienced, and that was like higher level of jhana. It was not even not jhana, the 5th stage of this concentration. or no, whatever she explained, maybe the 8th stage of concentration. But even when you're at the 5th stage of concentration, it's something which is rare in life, and we really like in harmony, totally excited, talking with a friend really deeply, and we have this total flow. When we play guitar, we are in total flow, like sometimes we play for 3 hours to have one moment like this, or something like that. And once we know how to do it consciously in meditation, then we have kind of free ticket for whatever we seek actually outside. And that's wonderful. As I say, it's not the purpose of meditation. The purpose of meditation is to have penetrating insight into the nature of reality, in which we set us free. Because you can meditate very, very well on this level and be kind of very happy, but taking the Buddhist scope of it, you die, and if you didn't have insight, who knows? Or you can also lose it. You have I don't know, a chronic teeth gum problem, and you can't concentrate so well anymore, or something. So you don't want to play when you have this opportunity to do it. You want to do it for the right reason, which is basically to have penetrating insight. It's a very different karma. It's definitely a seed of intentions that you plant. And the best seed to plant is I don't want only to do it for my own freedom, but for the sake of all being, to bring all being into perfect happiness, into freedom. And then usually when you get into this perfect balance, then what do we need to do? Not to do any more interventions, basically. Just stay in this perfect balance, which is sometimes very hard because we're already very addicted to intervene all the time. To always watch the mind and try to see where is it in the balance, and then we want, okay, let's stay like this, let's just rest there. And that is actually a very important thing, because we do need to keep some kind of watch on our mind. It's not just let's go to sleep now. In this, keep a watch on the mind, but it should be very subtle watch on the mind, because it's a bit like in quantum physics. Anytime we watch the mind, we kind of alter the mind a little bit, and it's a very, very subtle balance, and we don't want to break the balance. So we learn kind of thing how to watch the mind in a very gentle way. It's like something is really like a plate is rolling on this, I don't know, in circus, this stick. And from one, we kind of touch but really light. We don't want the plate to go out. So you just like touch, you see that it's still on the stick, running in the right way. And it's really a subtle art of watching the mind in such a subtle, a refined way, which we actually don't disturb the mind. That's kind of the important thing here. So I think we kind of cleared it, or we kind of cover what I want to cover. And it sounds like pretty straightforward, but it takes sometimes years to become a master of meditating correctly in this respect. And as I say, it's just a part. We want to be very tuned, very versed in understanding emptiness if you are a Buddhist. So actually, when you get to the higher level of concentration, your object should be void or emptiness, or at least non-self, or something like this, a high object, or the pure observer. I mean, you want to take an object which is actually very spiritual, and it can really bring you to this direct understanding into the nature of reality. And obviously, sometimes people who go and learn vipassana, they say, no, don't reach too high in your concentration, because then the phenomena of mind will not come, you will not see the ugliness, whatever, of the brain, of the mind. And that's a valid system. There are systems that build mindfulness and concentration hand by hand. When you go, I don't know, to vipassana retreat in Thailand. But there are other systems, and some systems, they first build this concentration, this really, really deep absorption. Then they contemplate with this deep absorption the very, very subtle object about the emptiness, the nature of the mind, things like that. And then it merged together. Usually they also merge it with compassion, expansion, infinite expansion of consciousness, stuff like this. And then this phenomena of direct insight into the nature of reality come faster. So there are a lot of different philosophies, but I think knowing how to work with the mind and bring yourself into concentration, even if you are not a great yogi, can be very helpful for anything in life, basically. Anything you want to do better, you need to know how to concentrate. And people who concentrate and have the ability to concentrate in the right way, meditate in the right way, their life will function better. Obviously, you can have other karmas, but it will be a factor that really help the quality of life. So now, if any question, if not, let's do something practical with it.
Yes.
Yes, question, or yes, practical.
Let's go.
Let's go. Okay, that's good. So let's do something. Let's sit in the meditation position. I can see already some people here need a lot of this gross laziness.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very hot. Hotness is very strong factor. And obviously what I'll do now will be very kind of schematic. It will not be necessarily, how to say, an amazing how you should do it in your home, because everybody have different tendencies. Some people have very strong tendency for slot and torpor, for like heavy laziness, but some people are very restless. It's also your dominant dosha, if you know Ayurveda. Some people are very kapha, so they tend to go into this lazy kind of gross laziness. Some people are very kind of vata, so they tend to go into, I don't know, subtle restlessness. Some people are very pitta, they go into gross restlessness. It has to do with your structure as well. And this is actually Ayurveda, in some of the ways they are coming to make you a better meditator. So if you balance your doshas, you can kind of more quickly go into this balanced mind type of thing. So let's close our eyes and take a deep, big breath. And let's start by following our breathing. Usually the sitting position is also very kind of important, especially if you have this, I don't know, gross laziness, dullness. It's good to sit straight. Especially the spine is the important factor. If you feel uncomfortable in a very fancy position, it will create restlessness. So actually, in this case, just it's more important usually to have comfortable positions than to have perfect position. But the spine should be kind of straight. Beautiful. So just follow your breathing. And we take as a meditation today, for this practice, staring to the eyes of our meditation teacher, of our guru,